In this week's web video fishing forecast for New England, we've got details on the final ruling relating to striped bass, circle hooks, and bait. Word of some lost and found fly fishing gear that we're trying to return to the owner. Trout stocking updates in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut. Improving holdover striped bass reports, and much, much more. Check it out.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Hey there, Toby Lapinski for the New England edition of the Fisherman magazine with this week's web video fishing forecast. As always, before I get into the video, got to remind you to like this video, comment down below if anything catches your attention. Be sure to subscribe to the Fisherman Magazine's YouTube channel and tap the bell and get immediate notification whenever we post new content. If you remember last week, I told you that we were running a bit of a spring sale promotion here at the Fisherman Magazine. It's now through the end of March. We're knocking $5 off an annual subscription. So that's just $24.95 for a full 38 issues a year. Gets you included into all of our fishing tournaments. That includes the Dreamboat, the Coastal Kayak Clash, both of which we will have the full official announcement notification for the details coming out in April. So you definitely want to stay tuned for that, of course. I'll have some updates here as well when those get going. So don't delay. This offer is only good through the end of March. $5 off. Head on over to thefisherman.com right now, or you can also call our customer service number. These are good on new, renewed, as well as gift subscriptions. And let's see, starting to get into some of the reports. Actually, before we hit the reports, big news this week was with striped bass fishermen. Aside from word of holdovers, which are being landed basically throughout southern New England, which I'm going to touch upon in just a minute, it's that we've finally got the final word as far as circle hooks, bait, and striped bass are concerned. Granted, this ruling went into effect back on January 1st. As I already told you, we've still been sitting tight, waiting to find out just how they're going to fine-tune the rules. Well, on Tuesday, ASMC's Striped Bass Management Board made its final rulings in regard to definition of bait, the use of bait in conjunction with artificial lures, as well as the subject of incidental catches. Now, you can read the complete news story right now at thefisherman.com, as I got a full breakdown of the meeting, which I sat in on as always, but the short of it is as follows. Defining bait is basically any marine or aquatic organism, live or dead, whole or parts thereof, which basically means if you think it's bait, it's bait. Let's not make it more difficult than we have to. Now, there was some discussion and debate as to whether they were going to include just marine organisms or terrestrials, as in some places, for instance, anglers use night crawlers for striped bass. But rather than muddy the waters up at this point in time, they kept it as is, and states, of course, are allowed to make more stringent or more descriptive regulations if they see fit, if it's something that applies in their area. So, bait is bait. We know what bait is. Moving on, circle hooks do not need to be used when bait is added to an artificial lure. Well, what does this mean? Basically, that silly question of, do I have to use a circle hook with a bucktail jig if I add a pork rind? And I mean silly coming from the ASMC side of things is, no, you can use a J-hook. If you are adding bait, as defined previously, to an artificial lure, you can use a J-hook. So, like I said, a bucktail jig, if you want to add pork rind, if you want to add a squid strip, what have you, you're fine with a regular J-hook. If surf fishermen or even boat trollers want to add an eel skin to a plug, you can use your regular hooks. One thing that did not receive exemption was in regards to the rig deal, which is a big one for me personally in the surf, but this was left to the discretion of the states to address. So as of right now, no states has provided an exemption. I'm not 100% sure if they'd be able to get it in for this current season, but it is on the books officially that they can address this subject individually, state by state, going forward. Then lastly, the one that really caused a bit of confusion was in regards to incidental catches. And what they determined was striped bass caught on any unapproved method of take must be returned to the water immediately without unnecessary injury. What this means is, if you're targeting another species, fluke, bluefish, sea bass, whatever, with bait and a J-hook, and a striped bass jumps on it, you may not retain and harvest that fish if it is of legal size. You must return it to the water unharmed as best you can and as quickly as possible. There was a bit of back and forth debate on this subject, but ultimately, rather than include a loophole where anglers could go and bypass the rule, this is the way that it came into effect. So again, if you want the full recap, the full details on all of these, head on over to fisherman.com. I got the full news story there. I'm going to jump into fishing now. Start up in Massachusetts. Trout stocking continues. Last week I told you they started on the Cape and just over the border of the canal into the mainland Massachusetts, and that's what they continued with this week. So basically from Truro on the Cape to just up to Plymouth, they're still stocking rainbows and brook trout. You can check out the details of this at thefisherman.com. I have a link over to Massachusetts fish stocking updates. And with these new fish around the crew, the Goose Hummock Shop has been out taking advantage of these fresh fish. They advise, of course, on a warm day, you're probably going to do a little bit better on those lakes and ponds. You wade the shoreline, casting lures, metals, cast masters, things like that work really well, work in the shallows, as well as small swimming lures like rapalas and yozuris. If you're not finding much action on there's nothing wrong with setting up a couple of baits, power bait, worms, minnows, what have you, on the beaches, in the shallows, and just waiting for the fish to come by and jump on your baits as well. Moving down to Rhode Island, unfortunately, it's about the same story as we had last week. DEM has not updated their trout stocking map. The Fish and Wildlife Facebook page has not officially announced any stocking taking place, and they haven't opened trout fishing early yet in Rhode Island either. So we're at a standstill, same thing as we had last week, but you can still get out and fish in non-trout stocked waters in Rhode Island. Moving into Connecticut, this is where I am today. I'm at the Black Hall Outfitters brand new shop in Westbrook. They've done a ton of new work on the shop. It is absolutely amazing. I'm standing on the upper floor, which is basically the rod room right now. It's still in process. They are open for business once again, but they're going to have a full grand opening first weekend of May. Now, I'm going to have more details on that as we get closer, and I'll have a full showing of the facilities once we get up to that point. But just want to let you know, if you're in the area at all, you need any fishing gear, any kayak stuff, be sure to hit up the guys at Black Hall Outfitters. And if you want to get out and fish, state of Connecticut's been stocking trout all over the state. They've been going from the northeast corner, northwest, south, all along, pretty much everywhere. Lakes, ponds, streams, trout parks started finally getting hit. And as you know, March 5th, the trout season opened early. So fishing has been very, very good. Been getting out myself. Hit a couple of little streams this weekend. I want to pass along word. When I was out there this weekend, I found that someone's fly box. It was on the side of the river. I asked around everybody who was there. No one was able to claim it. Trying to return it to its original owner. So if you happen to be out this weekend yourself, or you know someone who was, and they lost a fly box, shoot me an email, tlapinski@thefisherman.com. I'd love to return it to you. Of course, I'm going to ask you to confirm where I found it, and maybe a couple details as to the contents of it, because I want to get it back to its rightful owner. So hopefully we can return that, as I said. And last up, this time of the year, it's always expected we hear more and more talk on the holdover striped bass, especially here in Connecticut. And I was talking to my buddy, Joe D'Agostino at Joe Bags Outdoors. He went out fishing last week with Joe Diorio. They hit one of the larger tidal rivers in Connecticut. Did really, really well. Bunch of fish well into the 20-inch class, couple exceeding 30 inches. Of course, they were using Joe Bags Patriot fish. Said the half-ounce jig head was more than sufficient to get out to the fish and get down to them. But it's not just the big rivers. I'm hearing the smaller titles, marinas, coves, etc. also have fish starting to wake up. Herring are starting to move, so it is just that time of the year. Of course, if you do get out and fish this week, whether it's for trout, whether it's for striped bass, whether it's for largemouth bass, whatever the case may be, start off your trip by visiting thefisherman.com.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.